My name's Tim Scholl and I'm the Academic Advisor here at Box Hill Institute, and I'm here to help you with your Assessment Task 1 for Sustainability. I'm just going to talk you through some of the main points, how to structure your writing, how to format it, and go through a whole bunch of general rules and things as well to give you some help with starting out on this first assessment. So the question is here, discuss the factors necessary in maintaining the sustainability in hospitality while referring to its environmental, economical and social dimensions. Before I go any further, the link to this document is actually up the top of the page just here. So bit.ly/BHI sus Ass1 2018. And it'll be on the screen as well. And a link underneath the video so that you know where to go to get to this document to review it. There's also some criteria here that Marie-Paul's put in. So the word limit is 700 words plus or minus 10% depending on, so the range is 630 to 770. Papers must be submitted electronically and a hard copy in class. You must have a cover sheet. Papers must be written on A4 size page, word processed double spaced, and reference and attach a bibliography. If you've used reference material, which you should, to try and justify your answer. Just to address some of these things straight away. The cover sheet, if there is one that Marie-Paul has pointed you towards, like a cover sheet that you need to fill out that's on the student web, make sure you use that cover sheet and fill it out correctly with your correct details. If not, cover sheet materials should include your name, your student ID, the name of the assignment, and which assignment number it is, so assignment 1, 2, 3, 4, the due date and time. So that can just be on your first page of the document, and then you can just start your writing on the second page. There's the reference material here that Marie-Paul has given, and I've also given some instructions there. There's an online book for some of these things. For some of the things you should look in Google Scholar. Okay, so that's all the reference material. There's quite a lot, and you can look for your own reference material as well. That'll come off that. Let's get into the structure of this response. So I've got the question here again, so you don't have to keep scrolling back to the top. In the introduction, you should rephrase the question and then introduce your arguments in around about 50 words. So I've given an example there. Don't use that example because then you'll be plagiarizing my work, but it's something to build from. So maintaining sustainability is a case of effectively managing environmental, economical and social factors of a hospitality business. This discussion paper will attempt to address issues such as, and then put a list of your arguments separated by commas. Then in the body you go into those arguments, and then in the conclusion you restate those arguments. And my main point here is don't start with in conclusion. It's a really amateur thing to do. And most of the time, if you write in conclusion and then go back and delete it and start the sentence with whatever the next word is, it will work anyway. So start with something like to maintain sustainability effectively, or sustainable industries commonly, or for an industry to be sustainable, it must. So that's just a little bit about structure. You should actually start with thinking about what your body is going to include. So what are the arguments that you're going to make? What is the particular part of the hospitality industry that you're going to focus on? Don't actually try and just write your introduction first, because you need your list of arguments. So think about what your list of arguments are going to be in relation to the question before you actually try and write your introduction. And don't end with grand statements. So, if the world just did things sustainably, everything would be amazing and work effectively. Well, that doesn't mean anything in relation to the question. It doesn't mean anything in relation to your research, and it's not really realistic, and it's not academically appropriate to do that. And with one clear answer to the question that's directly related to the question. So the example I gave here is to balance environmental, social and economical facets of a business in a way that is effective and profitable is difficult to do consistently. Full stop. It requires significant effort from all members of a business, from executives to customer-facing staff. That's just making a direct answer to the question that isn't a grand statement. It's really being realistic and saying what actually needs to be done for that question to be answered. The next section is all about rules for writing in general. So like I said, make a plan, This question clearly mentions 3 aspects, so you should try and come up with an argument that addresses each aspect in a particular part of the industry. Body, intro, then conclusion, so don't try and write your intro first or it'll suck. Try and think about your body arguments first and then come back to it. In terms of paraphrasing and plagiarizing, people kind of tend to misunderstand what paraphrasing means, and I just got this statement here. People always say write in your own words, and it's not what they mean. What they mean is actually show me your understanding of the research. So sometimes that understanding of the research will be shorter than what the research actually is, or it will be longer. So I'll give an example here. This here in italics is a direct quote from the grant reference material that you were given. And then the next section is me actually paraphrasing it. You can see the difference between the two. Mine is a little bit shorter. That won't always be the case, but what it does is show you that I understand what this paragraph here is trying to say. And that's what the important part of paraphrasing is. Show the lecturer that you understand the research. And copying and pasting the research doesn't show that you understand it. And so therefore you get poor marks, and then you get accused of plagiarizing. So when you try and use your own words, you're actually trying to show your own understanding, and it can be in a lot more basic language. It doesn't have to be highly technical. It just has to communicate the idea that the paper is communicating and actually back up your argument. And then I've also put the end of text reference there because we're going to talk a little bit about referencing too. This is the most important thing in terms of structuring your writing. If you try to keep your sentences around 25 words or less, you'll make your points much more clearer. And you can see that if I read out this sentence here as the marker, try to keep your sentences to 25 words or less, because when a sentence goes over 25 words, it tends to lose its impact, and you tend to lose track of what you were saying when you began the sentence. And it can be tiring for the reader to try and read your long sentence when you could have split something into multiple sentences and strained their brain a little less, trying to remember what you were talking about or the point you were trying to make when you started this sentence. However, making longer sentences and paragraphs makes you look intelligent and like you know what you're talking about, right? I could have said the exact same thing. Keep your sentences to 25 words or less and you'll make your point clearly every time. The first sentence here is what students tend to do. They tend to start to make a point and then they don't know where to end. They don't know how to end. And the truth of the matter is that you just need to end. You need to try and find an end to your sentence and try and make your point clearly. Anything that goes over 25 words, it doesn't mean if it gets to 26 or 27 or 28 words, you should, rewrite the whole sentence. It's about being reasonable. If it goes over 30 words, you're in real trouble, unless the sentence makes really clear sense. So just try to stick to that rule, stick around that area. If you're going a lot over that, you'll realise when you read the sentence back, it doesn't really make clear sense. You have to reference in text and end of text. So your in-text references should look like this. So in brackets, the author's name and the year that the article was written. And then at the end of the text, you'd have this format will differ depending on what you use as a reference material, whether it's an article, a book, a website. This is always your in-text reference, no matter how you want to do it. I could have written Shoal, I could have put at the start of the sentence, I could have put my name, Shoal says da da da. And then that's my reference, Shoal 2018 says blah blah blah. Or I could put it in brackets like this. This is for Harvard style, which is what you need to use. So the in-text reference needs to have the author and the year in some kind of context, right? And then at the end, you really need the author, the year, you need the title, and you need, if it had multiple editions, this is for books. But the full LibGuide is here for Harvard, for the LibGuide, all right? So if you go to this here, it'll take you directly to the Harvard LibGuide reference, and it'll give you some information about paraphrasing, which pretty much reinforces what I talked about. And then it'll go into how you directly quote if you need to directly quote something. And then it'll go into how you actually reference different types of material. And if you follow this format, so in every single case, it's got the reference list format. If you follow that format to the letter, you will get good marks for your referencing. Now, if you can't find some of this stuff, so if in an electronic journal article you can't find the volume number or the issue number or the month or something, if you can't find it, you can't find it. Don't stress out. Just put as much information as you possibly can. All right, so that link is there. So no excuses for poor referencing anymore. Follow that and do your best, and you'll find that you get pretty good marks for your referencing. If your referencing isn't good, the rest of your paper falls down really quickly. Research is the basis of good writing. So if you've got unreliable reference material like Wikipedia or other open source websites, no matter what you do, your arguments will always be weak and you won't be able to write all that well. Now, I just want to talk a little bit about formatting your writing, which I'll put in the document as well. So when you format your writing, you need to pick one font for your headings and one font for your paragraphs. If your document has any more than 2 font types in it, you will lose marks for formatting your writing. There is no need for any more than 2 different font types. That being said, your paragraph text should be one size, so whether that's size 12 or size 11, it should all be that size. So when you finish your writing, these are things that you go back and check. If Marie-Paul has specified a size, then you need to do it that size. If she says size 12, you need to make it size 12. If she says it needs to be an Arial, you need to make sure it's an Arial. Do not choose crappy fonts to read. So if you look at the screen in front of you, don't choose something like Comic Sans. It's difficult to read. After reading 200 or 300 words, it becomes really laborious on your eyes and it's not fun to read. All right, and you'll lose marks for it because it's just not a professional way to actually communicate. The fonts that usually get used are Arial or Calibri or Cambria. And really the best to stick to, I've used Roboto in this document, but you might not have access to Roboto, and teachers generally would prefer something like Times New Roman or Arial because it's easier to read. One font for your paragraphs, one font for your headings. Pick your size of your headings. Don't go any bigger than 18 because it just looks stupid. You know, like I've got size 14 here. This is what size 24 looks like. It just looks ridiculous. So don't pick anything that's too big. Don't pick anything bigger than 18 because the size difference is enough to tell the difference between a heading and a paragraph text. So you choose 2 fonts. They each have a size and that stays the same throughout. Then your line spacing, so how far things are apart. You should always choose 1.5 for your paragraph text. That's just the safe way to go. If your teacher specifies double spacing, then choose double spacing. But if they don't specify something, don't go any less than 1.5. Make sure that that is 1.5. Do not justify the text unless your teacher asks you to do so. Why? Because sometimes justification ends up with one line where it has like 3 or 4 words spread across the entire line, and that is annoying to read. So leave it left aligned unless your teacher specifies that they want you to justify it. And your reference list at the end should all be double spaced. So regardless of how big the paragraph text is, always double space your reference list, regardless of what the teacher says. Always double space it, makes it a lot easier to read, and always have your reference list on a separate page. All right. Last thing, and I know I'm being stupid, you're probably sitting there going, Tim, this is all common sense stuff. Last thing, the color of your text. Don't choose red for your headings or blue for your headings. Everything needs to be in black. And that is because black text on a white page is a lot easier to read. So if you have bright green text on the screen like this, it is very, very difficult to read. It hurts your eyes, and if you have to constantly flick between colors, your eyes get very tired very, very quickly. Just be careful of that. Make sure that everything is black text on white background. Hyperlinks, it's okay if they go blue. That is okay because that is a common thing that links to things are blue. All right, so that's okay. But you shouldn't have any hyperlinks in your text like this. There should be references, and then the hyperlink will be in the end of text reference. So I think I've covered everything. Make sure that you come to this document and have a look over. I'll be in your class next week to kind of go over this again and answer any questions that you might have. And Marie-Paul will be there always as well. I'll also put into this document all my contact details so that you know where to find me to book an appointment if you'd like to, or get in contact with me, or send me your work to proofread before you hand it in. The main thing about this type of writing is to give it a try. No one's perfect. Adjust your expectation, do your best, and you will get through this, all right? The main thing is that you try. In your first year, it is about trying, it is about falling short, it is about learning to develop your writing voice. So if your expectation is to get all HDs, you better be working your butt off, reading a lot, doing multiple drafts of your writing, coming to me for help, going to Marie Paul for help in this unit and your other teachers in your other units. And you have to be a really dedicated student in your first semester to be getting all HDs. Right? It is possible. I'm not saying it's not possible. I'm just saying that it's difficult to do and it takes a lot of effort. You don't just rock up to class, spend half an hour on your assignment and then get a HD. It's not how it works. So all of that information will be here. I'll post this on Facebook. It'll be in the sustainability unit on the student web. And yeah, if you've got any questions, feel free to drop me a line. I'll talk to you soon.